Who is this beautiful man in the left corner of my screen? Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Hello everyone, this is Tetrafolium. I'm here today to talk about another starter Pokemon, um, Blaziken. So Blaziken is many of our favorite starting or starter of the Generation 3 games. I know some people are Team Swampert, some people are Team Sceptile, but I think there are a lot of people Team Blaziken, and personally, if I was going to play the in-game, which I have not done in a long time, I do like Blaziken. I do think it's cool to build a team around Blaziken, and we're going to see if that translates to the competitive side. So this is Blaziken, ADV's most powerful mixed attacker. I'll try to argue this point here, under the guise of powerful, meaning the amount of damage that you output, of course. So here we are with the viability rankings. Clearly, Blaziken is not an OU ranked Pokemon. If you know anything about the tier, it has a pretty minor presence, and it is ranked 44th according to Vapakuno, which is maybe fair. We'll see a little bit more about what Blaziken can do. Some have argued that Camerupt and Houndoom are better, and that it is like the most borderline of all the fire types. But I'm here to say maybe Vapakuno was right. I don't know. I'm not going to analyze too much about the other two, admittedly, in this video. I don't think that they offer quite the same thing that Blaziken does. But what does Blaziken offer? Well, I'm so glad you asked. We're going to talk about first the physical and special split in ADV. So prior to Generation 4, so this would be obviously Generations 1, 2, and 3, whether an attacking move is physical or special depends on its type. So here we have a diagram of all the types that are considered physical and all the types that are considered special. It's not super duper easy to remember just based on this. There are definitely some types like Ghost that many people think would be special because the most prominent Ghost type attacking move is Shadow Ball, which, I mean, clearly that seems like a special move. Kind of similar with Poison, where like the most prominent Poison type attacking move is Sludge Bomb. Like, well, that's seems like it would be a special move, right? Dark is kind of also on the similar side, although there are not that many Dark type moves, but things like Pursuit, Crunch, and Bite you would think would be physical, but they're all special. Here's a little diagram that people kind of use to help remember when they're playing. If you'll notice, every single evolution type and dragon is considered special. So, and this is including, of course, your Gen 4 evolutions, Glaceon and Leafeon, which don't exist in ADV. Sylveon would be here at the bottom, but it's kind of a moot point to argue whether Fairy would be physical or special in this generation, because Fairy, like, there wasn't even a concept of Fairy back in Generation 3. I guess if you had to pick, it would probably be special, but to round it all out, and it kind of does make sense with Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam, but like, again, not very relevant. So all the evolutions plus Dragon are the special types. Everything else is physical. And that kind of parlays into mixed attackers. So what is a mixed attacker? If you're in modern gens, you maybe have not seen very many of these. I know, like, especially like 6, 7, 8, the power level of the average OU Pokemon is so high that you can't really afford to be splitting your investment. Gen 9 kind of brought mixed attackers back into the forefront with Iron Valiant, which is an insane Pokemon, which it just shocks me how far we've gone in modern generations, where Iron Valiant's not even considered broken in its generation. But in any case, mixed attackers are mons that use both physical and special attacking moves. Generally, mixed attackers have good attack and special attack stats. Sometimes you will have mixed attackers that maybe don't have as good an attack or special attack stat, but like the coverage of the other of a move that is physical or special, and will use it anyway. Examples being like a Pokemon, like a physical attacking Pokemon using Hidden Power Grass so that it has some move to hit Swampert. A special attacking Pokemon having something like Focus Punch to be able to hit Tyranitar or Blissey. Oftentimes, mixed attackers have a physical type and a special type in their stabs, but that's not always the case. And sometimes they'll even forego one of their stabs for a better coverage option. So here are pretty much the premier examples of mixed attackers in this format. Salamence, its mix set is probably its most popular, with Dragon Claw, Fire Blast, Hidden Power Grass, and Brick Break. Tyranitar has a similar set with Fire Blast, Ice Beam, Hidden Power or Crunch, maybe, and Brick Break. Brick Break is very common for the special attackers to have because they want to be able to hit Tyranitar really hard, also be able to hit Blissey. Swampert is like probably the poster child of the mixed attackers though, because it's got the water ground type, and you want to use Stab, Hydro Pump, and Earthquake on many Swampert sets. So, and then of course Charizard famously has Focus Punch. It could also run Rock Slide and Earthquake. It gets really good physical coverage moves, but it is obviously very good as a special attacker as well, with a pretty high, I should say, special attack stat and Fire Blast. And then Zapdos, you may not think of Zapdos as a mixed attacker, but it does have the secondary Flying type and Drill Peck, which is strong enough to threaten Celebi, who otherwise is pretty good at walling Zapdos. Let's take a look more particularly at their base stats. I've got them color-coded so that the gold yellowish is like a really good attack stat. Green is pretty good, and then blue is like usable. And like all of these Pokemon have at least usable on their lower attack stat. In Salamence's case, it's actually got pretty good for both. So, I mean, and it's no wonder why Salamence is one of the best mixed attackers in the generation. As far as why you might want to do mixed attacking, because you would think you only have but so many EVs to invest, isn't it better to just invest purely into one side so that you can maximize damage from your special attacks or maximize damage from your physical attacks, and then have a bunch of speed or bulk left over? And yeah, generally that is a good idea, but not every Pokemon is weak to primarily physical attacks or primarily special attacks. I mean, your most stratified would be like Skarmory, for example, has a really high defense stat, and its only weaknesses are fire and electric, which are special moves. Blissey, on the other hand, has really high special defense. Its only weakness is fighting, which is a physical move or a physical type. So you generally would use a mixed attacker to get coverage, and I'm going to tell you the 4 types that you could have on one set that I think covers the most Pokemon. I've tried to explore some other options and couldn't quite find some. If you find something better, feel free to comment and I will pin it so that we can see. But also, I'm trying to fit a narrative here, okay? So don't go calling me out too egregiously if I messed this up. But so let's start by looking at the top Pokemon of the tier. So Tyranitar is most weak to fighting, and that would also hit Blissey and Snorlax. So let's call fighting as one of them. So there's 6 Pokemon D rank or higher here that are weak to fighting. So that's pretty good. We can argue about whether I should be including Smeargle, Jinx, and Raikou in here, but I'm going to do it just for the sake of completeness. I guess also Medicham is not an OU ranked Pokemon, so maybe that shouldn't count either. But yeah, again, for the sake of completeness, we're going to continue. Now Skarmory, we kind of have the option of Electric or Fire, but Fire will help us hit things like Celebi, as well as all of the Steel types. Every Steel type in OU is weak to Fire. They are not all weak to fighting, and they are not all weak to ground. So Fire is actually really nice to have as a coverage move. And there are 8 Pokemon who are weak to Fire, but not also weak to fighting. You know, for example, Magneton is weak to both, but I'm not going to double count it. And then the next Pokemon that we haven't covered yet is Swampert, which is kind of a good one to get because it's only weak to grass. And there are a handful of other water types here and then ground types as well. So we'll pick grass as the 3rd type here, and we're kind of filling up. And then the last is Zapdos, and here's kind of where we have a little bit of a choice to make here. We could pick Rock, which would get most of the other flying types. I think actually all of the other flying types. Or we could do Ice. And Ice does get a good number of them as well, and would get Flygon. But Charizard, Moltres, and Gyarados are all flying types that are not weak to Ice. So I think we'll opt for Rock here. And of these 4 types, the only Pokemon who are not weak to any single one of them is Gengar, Flygon, Jolteon, Medicham, and Raikou. Of these, I think probably the worst one to miss out on is maybe Flygon, because it's the most defensive-oriented, or it can be the most defensive-oriented of all of them. And it also resists 3 out of the 4, so Flygon's actually the GOAT, frankly. I mean, if you don't believe me, go watch my video on Flygon. But I think that this is really, really good. It gets 83% of all of these D-ranked or higher Pokemon. If we excluded Medicham and Raikou at the expense of Smeargle and Jinx, I think actually our total looks even better. Or at least percentage-wise. There will only be 3 OU ranked Pokemon that we don't hit, which is really, really good. So, yeah, like this coverage you would think is like basically the god coverage, right? Let's take a look at some Pokemon that get that, and they're actually more than you would think. Blissey, did you expect Blissey to be on this list? Okay, well, let's get rid of some of these Pokemon that are not like real, okay? If you need Rock Smash, which is a 20 base power move to achieve this coverage, you don't count. So yeah, that's gonna eliminate a handful of them. Blissey, you thought Blissey was gonna leave there? No, actually Blissey gets a Brick Break, believe it or not. So, but like as far as mixed attacking goes, we would like to have Pokemon that have good attacking stats on both sides. So I'm going to eliminate any Pokemon that has an attack or special attack lower than 80, which is like, that's just not going to cut it for being a threat on both sides. And that's going to eliminate like half of the Pokemon that were left. So now we're down to, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pokemon. But there's one that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, and yeah, we're just going to eliminate that one by saying that we have to attack on consecutive turns here. Otherwise, like, what are we doing? That's not going to do much for us in terms of being good at attacking all switch-ins. So the 5 that are left here are all pretty solid Pokemon. In fact, all of them are OU ranked except for Blaziken, but I did call Blaziken the most powerful, and we're going to see if that kind of holds up to scrutiny here. So first thing we'll look at is the base attack. We're also going to consider special attack, speed, and stab. First thing is the attack stat. And Blaziken actually has the third best attack stat out of all of these, if you could believe that. 120 is really good. And considering that we're up against Salamence and Tyranitar, who are two of the highest attack Pokemon in the game, the only ones that are higher, at least in terms of base stats, would be Slacking, who has its obvious problems, and Metagross ties Salamence at 135. Of course, there's the Deoxys forms and Groudon and stuff like that in Ubers, but we're not going to consider those. And then I guess you could also say Medicham with its pure power. Potentially Azumarill as well with huge power, but Azumarill's quite rare, so we're not going to consider that. So, yeah, Blaziken is within striking distance of some of the legitimate goats of physical attackers in the tier. But what about special attack, right? Blaziken's actually tied for the highest with 110. Salamence, that's quite impressive, actually, the 110. But Charizard not too far behind at 109. And then Tyranitar 95 is pretty decent. I mean, I think things like Kingdra get away with that. But granted, Kingdra's going to be clicking way stronger stab moves, primarily Hydro Pump, than Tyranitar would be. But Tyranitar does have a lot better coverage, at least. Things like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, like you're not wanting for special coverage on Tyranitar, really. And then Flygon is barely eligible for this at base 80 special attack. Just a note for Flygon, it barely gets this this almost perfect coverage that I call it, because it has Giga Drain. If you were gonna not have a move here, if you had to use Hidden Power to cover one of them, you would pick Grass generally, because it's really hard to find a Grass type move that is more powerful than Hidden Power. Flygon, while it could run Hidden Power Grass, I don't believe it gets a fighting type move. So that's a little bit tough for it, although it would generally want to use Ground instead. So maybe it's barely even a consideration for this. But let's take a look at the speed. And that's where Flygon kind of wins us back here. Being tied for the fastest. There are actually 3 base 100s here, which is kind of interesting. Blaziken at base 80, that's a pretty good speed stat, but not a great speed stat. There's still a handful of Pokemon that are dangerous, that are faster than you. Things like Suicune, or Heracross, or Moltres. All the base 100s, of course, and then, of course, anything faster than that. Tyranitar is sitting at 61, which is not very impressive. With a Dragon Dance boost, it's actually not that bad. It'll get faster than potentially base 115s like Starmie, if you're at max speed. But as far as this goes, it's not great. And then the stabs in that coverage, so that would be the Fighting, Fire, Grass, and Rock. Blaziken has 2 of those as stab. Charizard and Tyranitar get 1 each, and then our 2 Dragon types have neither. So Blaziken, honestly, if you compare, it's pretty good. It's a little bit slow, but it's not so slow that it's not going to be able to do anything. So I think that in terms of mixed coverage, there is a legitimate argument that Blaziken is the strongest of these. And keep in mind that, yes, Salamence has the best attacking stats and also the best speed. So, I mean, if we're being honest, Salamence is the best mixed attacker, but its stabs are Dragon Claw and HP Flying, which are not very strong compared to Blaziken, who's going to be using Fire Blast and Sky Uppercut, which are certainly a lot stronger. So, like, that kind of sways it a little bit, I think, in Blaziken's favor, which is why I think the stab is important. Now, Dragon Claw is a great neutral click, and HP Flying is also definitely has its place, but you generally don't run both of those on the same set, though, so keep that in mind. Blaziken, to further show how good its mixed stab is, let's take a look at the 6 common leads of ADV. So, this is based on BKC's video about the ADV lead metagame, and very timely that we're talking about BKC in the Blaziken video. If you didn't know who that person in the first slide is, that was BKC. If you're 21 minutes in and you did not know that, well, I guess now you know. But in any case, by BKC's estimation, these are the 6 most common leads. There are very many other ADV content creators and players who are very good at the game who would probably concur with this, that these are 6 very common leads. It's not the most comprehensive list, of course. I've definitely shown teams in this series that don't lead with one of these 6 Pokemon, but commonly you'll see these. I'm kind of talking in circles here, so let's just get into it. These top 3 here, Tyranitar, Metagross, and Skarmory, all of them are going to lose to Blaziken one-on-one. Blaziken can run sets that threaten to OHKO Tyranitar with Sky Uppercut, and not even with a lot of attack investment. You don't need very much to threaten this OHKO. In fact, if the Tyranitar has no bulk investment at all, then Blaziken doesn't need any attack investment to get the KO with Sky Uppercut, which is pretty impressive, I think. We're going to OHKO the bulkiest Metagross set in OU with medium special attack investment. So the bulky attacker set, which has, I believe, 252 HP. We don't even need modest nature or plus a special attack nature to KO the Metagross, so that's quite good. That affords us the ability to run a plus speed nature so that we can guarantee outspeed Metagross if we would like. And then we're going to OHKO Skarmory with high special attack investment. So, like with a Fire Blast, if we have a plus special attack nature, we're going to KO all the Skarmorys. We could maybe get away with not doing that if we want to use Overheat instead, which is a little bit stronger than Fire Blast. But Overheat has the drawback of not being able to be clicked like multiple times before you switch out. There are kind of ways around that, and I'll maybe talk about that when we talk about Blaziken sets. But being able to get all 3 of these Pokemon with one lead is really, really good. That's going to get most of the problems out of the way for you. There's Zapdos here in the bottom left, and Zapdos will favorably trade against physical-oriented Blazikens. Blaziken, even with Rock Slide, is generally not going to OHKO Zapdos. It would need a crit. Blaziken could also try to boost, like maybe with a bulk up, or probably more commonly a Swords Dance. And you could live a Thunderbolt, but it's really difficult to find a situation where Blaziken can get to +2 safely against the Zapdos, and still have the HP to live a Thunderbolt. It's not generally going to happen. So Zapdos will usually take the T-Bolt, eat the Rock Slide damage for probably 75-ish%, and then finish off the Blaziken. But Zapdos will trade unfavorably against special attack investment Blaziken, because Zapdos will hit the Blaziken generally into Blaze range, And then Blaziken with a Blaze boosted Fire Blast will OHKO most Zapdos sets. There are some Zapdos sets that run a lot of special defense investment, but those Zapdoses will commonly be slower than Blaziken, unless you're running a really slow Blaziken for some reason. So Blaziken can click Fire Blast and threaten a 2-hit KO on those Zapdos. Even if it's a 3-hit KO, Zapdos is also struggling to kill you back. So I think that, your special-oriented Blazikens are generally going to be better against Zapdos. Your physical ones are generally not going to be better against Zapdos. As counterintuitive as that might seem, because the physical Blazikens are going to have Rock Slide. And then the last two are generally going to beat Blaziken. So Blaziken can only really trade into Ment if it has HP Ice. And if the Ment is not physically oriented. HP Flying and Earthquake are usually going to kill Blaziken. And Blaziken cannot kill Salamence back unless it has HP Ice. Even if you run Rock Slide, you have to recall that Salamence will have Intimidate, and a -1 Blaziken is just not really doing much. And then Suicune is probably going to beat pretty much every Blaziken set. Its least offensive set is favored to get a one-shot kill against many Blaziken sets. And its most offensive set will always OHKO Blaziken, even if you're running something ridiculous like max HP with some special defense investment, which I would not recommend doing that with Blaziken. So yeah, Suicune is probably the hardest counter that Blaziken has ever seen, but that is true for a lot of Pokemon. Yeah. Let's continue with some of the Blaziken sets here. So these are kind of more the physical-oriented Blaziken. This first one here has got Swords Dance as a potential. You might run Focus Punch instead. Sky Uppercut, Rock Slide, and then you're probably still going to want to run a Fire-type move here. What's kind of nice about Blaziken, as I've kind of touched on or alluded to, is that being a Fire type means that it is really good against the Steel types. And a physical attacker that's good against Steel types is kind of hard to find. There are ground types like Dugtrio and Flygon that in theory would be threatening to Steel types, and they kind of are to Metagross and Jirachi, but Skarmory and Fortress don't really mind because of their secondary type resists or is immune to ground, so they can take a lot of ground type hits, but Fire Blast or Overheat is going to threaten all of the Steel types. So you have a Swords Dance physical sweeper here that doesn't get shut down by a Steel type switching in, which is honestly a little bit difficult to find. And even the ground type attackers, like, they're gonna have to rely on a Rock Slide flinch to stop Skarmory from roaring them away. So Blaziken's really good for this. You could also run a Choice Band set, and this is kind of funny because even on the Choice Band set, you're still going to run a Fire-type move so that you can threaten Skarmory and Metagross and all of that nice stuff. You could opt to run Earthquake. I believe it... Yeah, I'm pretty sure Blaziken gets Earthquake. Let me do a little bit of confirmation on that. You would think, again, that I would have this stuff memorized, but yes, Blaziken does get Earthquake. You also get things like Double Edge, and Quick Attack, maybe, if you wanted other physical moves. But that's kind of the long and the short of a physically oriented Blaziken. Now let's look at some more special oriented sets. So there's Sub Punch here, which is primarily going for a substitute focus punch. With this attack investment, you are generally threatening an Oko on Blissey, and I think you will also do a lot of damage to Snorlax. So that's pretty nice. But you've got a lot of investment into special attack, so that you can fire off Focus Blast. That doesn't exist this generation. Fire Blast, as well as HP Ice or Thunder Punch. I say that this is special oriented because primarily you're going to be clicking Fire Blast if you're not behind a substitute. But if you find yourself behind a substitute, you kind of get the dealer's choice, which is really cool. And then there's just the straight up special attacker set. But even the special attacker set likes to run Sky Uppercut because you want to have a move that threatens Tyranitar and Blissey. Yeah. As for like other moves that are not represented on here, Flamethrower is an option. It's not as strong as Fire Blast or Overheat, which we've seen a lot of. That's kind of why you don't use it, because while Blaziken does have a pretty good special attack stat, because it is investing a lot in its other stats as well, you might not be getting the absolute strongest attack out of it. Plus, Fire Blast at least is necessary to KO Skarmory in most cases. So, yeah, you generally would like to have it, because one-shotting Skarmory is a huge deal. Something that Salamence can't do, even with a max special attack set. So that's kind of where Blaziken gets its value, right? If you're gonna use Flamethrower on Blaziken, I probably would think about just using a different Pokemon entirely, to be honest. Yeah, or I mean, you could maybe do it on a physical set where you have just enough special attack to 2-hit KO a Skarm. I could see that. But yeah, as far as other special moves go, there's not really that many other ones that you would want to look for Blaziken. Overheat is not generally favored on these special-oriented sets because you want to click a lot of special moves, but you could run an item called a White Herb, which resets your negative stat changes after they come up. So you could click Overheat, get the -2 special attack drop, and then White Herb will clear that. So you could click Overheat again, which is quite nice and good if you are somebody who is not very comfortable clicking Fire Blast. Now, I should mention that Blaziken has a signature move called Blaze Kick, but it's 85 base power and 90 accuracy, so it is like strictly worse than Flamethrower. I mean, I guess it has a high critical hit ratio and still a 10% chance to burn. So if you like to fish for crits, then maybe Blaze Kick makes sense, but generally I would not recommend that. Like, Blaze Kick is generally going to be worse than Flamethrower even. And Flamethrower, I'm suggesting that you probably do not use with Blaziken. But obviously, if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I'm about to offer a slightly different set, and we're going to be going kind of based on this special attacker set. So, oh, whoops, I guess there's a reversal set in here. Yeah, I don't really like the reversal sets on Pokemon, especially Pokemon that are not immune to sand. You need so much support to get something like that to work, like a Weather Clear, or to not be facing a Tyranitar team, which is, I mean, if you're banking on not facing Tyranitar, you might just want to play UU instead, because yeah, Tyranitar is extremely common. But I guess in theory you could do this, and it's kind of nice to be Endure Reversal with Fire Blast and Hidden Power Ice, that basically hits the entire tier because the only Pokemon that you're a little bit hesitant to hit with reversal would be like a bulky Metagross / Skarmory, which Fire Blast in Blaze range will handle quite nicely. And then Salamence is another pain, but HP Ice is going to get that. So in theory, this could be really nice, but in practice, I think it's just too difficult to fit weather, like reliable weather clear. And then for Blaziken to be your reversal sweeper is not even necessarily the best. Like you could have Metacham or you could have Heracross instead. But you could do this, I guess. Not my favorite, but we're gonna go kind of more based on this special attacker set for what I'm suggesting. So here we have a slightly different EV spread. We've got a little bit less attack, a little bit more special attack, and a little bit more speed. So those previous Blaziken sets, they were pretty preoccupied with outrunning Tyranitar. But the thing is, there are so many Pokemon preoccupied with outrunning Tyranitar. Things like Celebi, Jirachi, Zapdos sometimes, Metagross sometimes, Heracross to some extent. Like so many Pokemon that are preoccupied with that. So I'm kind of jumping up to the next tier. And I'm going to outspeed any like the base 65s. Let's kind of put all of that on the screen. Yeah, I know there's a lot of information, but so things like Scizor, Vaporeon, and Umbreon we will be faster than. Granted, how much does that matter? I'm not sure, but it will. Being faster than these will make sure that we're faster than all the things that are trying to speed creep Tyranitar, and all the things that are trying to speed creep each other there. So this is actually, I think, pretty nice. Let's talk about the moves in particular. So Fire Blast with this spread, we're gonna KO or one-shot Oko. All of these moves, all of these are interchangeable, synonymous. We're gonna Oko Skarmory. We're gonna Oko the majority of Metagross. Now there is a special defense invested Metagross set that is used in Ubers sometimes that we are not guaranteed to KO, but that set is extremely uncommon in OU, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. 252 Metagross is comfortably getting OHKO'd by Fire Blast. We will OHKO offensive Celebi, but we will also OHKO a Celebi, a utility Celebi that has taken one layer of spikes and if sand is up, which all of that is not necessarily easy to come by, but that will go to show you that Blaziken is really threatening to Celebi, and utility Celebi sometimes does not run Psychic, so it might not even have a move that threatens Blaziken back. Now, if it does have Psychic, you're in a little bit of trouble, but I digress. Thunder Punch. So Thunder Punch is, you would think, is not a great coverage move because really it only hits Gyarados, and with this spread, I think I actually said that we have more special attack than the special attacker Blaziken, but that is false. I believe they hit 240 with a plus nature, which gives you a favorable roll against Gyarados. Because of what we're cutting, we actually are not favored to OHKO a standard Gyarados. I think we're like very rarely KOing a rest Gyarados as well. But the thing that I'm kind of banking on with this additional speed is that we will be faster than most Gyarados. And if they switch into something like a Fire Blast or an HP Ice, then that is enough chip that Thunder Punch will get the KO. Now, if we're up against a Jolly Gyarados, who's running, generally they run HP Rock to hit, say, like a Aerodactyl, that's the Pokemon. After the Dragon Dance boost, because with Jolly they will outspeed Aerodactyl. Then we are a little bit safer, not exactly, because that Gyarados generally runs Earthquake, which is threatening a KO on Blaziken, especially at +1. So kind of goes either way there, but we can cover that weakness a little bit with a partner that I'm going to suggest for Blaziken when we get to the team section. So, but Thunder Punch is really nice because otherwise we would get hard walled by Gyarados, and Gyarados would very scarily set up Dragon Dances on us. It's also a good move into certain of the water types. We're going to 3-hit KO Suicune if there's one spike and no sand. If there is sand, then I think we'll 3-hit KO Suicune without the spike. So that's kind of nice. Now, I wouldn't put too much stock into this because Suicune is certainly going to kill us with whatever water type move it goes for. I guess maybe not certainly. It might not kill with Surf if it's not special attack invested. But, yeah, we're not going to generally 1v1 Suicune. But if we can get Blaziken in versus a Suicune that has used Rest and is not faster than us, then the 3-hit KO benchmark matters a lot. Now, that we would have to have Sand, of course, to reliably KO the Suicune, and the Suicune would have to not have set up a Calm Mind. But if such a situation arises, then Blaziken might be able to beat the Suicune while it's asleep. So that's a little bit of an important thing to note. We might not be completely screwed against last Mon Suicune in that case. So HP Ice here is to usually one-shot a defensive Flygon. We're guaranteed to one-shot an offensive Flygon, and we're slightly capable of KOing the Tetrafolium defensive Flygon. If you want to see what that one is, you can go check out my Flygon video. And then we'll OHKO the offensive Salamence sets. Anything that's running less than 88 EVs and HP. Now, generally, not defensive. Dragon Dance Salamence runs about 100, so we might not get the OHKO on that, but we still have rolls to get it. So, and I think it's even favorable for us, so that's quite good. Now, the thing to note here is that both of these Pokemon could be faster than Blaziken and are threatening an OHKO back. So you would have to catch them on the switch, or you would have to know that it's a defensive Flygon to click HP Ice. I kind of have a workaround for that, but we'll discuss it when we get to it. And then Sky Uppercut. This is going to OHKO any 252 HP Tyranitar. If they're running Defense Investment, we might not get the 2-hit KO, but it's not very common that you'll see high HP and Defense Investment from a Tyranitar. Although, Magnet on the Fridge, or Magneton the Fridge, I don't know how you say that. I've seen you on the ladder with your Tyranitar set, and that is evil. That is gross. That is a defensive Tyranitar. If you are in the ADV Discord and you check up on the replays, you might have seen that replay. And I actually did play against that team on the ladder myself. We will not see that game in this video, which kind of tells you maybe how it went. But we're also going to get a 2-hit KO on an unboosted Curseflax without Sand, and a 2-hit KO on Bold Blissey. So this coverage is really good. I'll explain a little bit about the special defense EVs, which looks a little bit weird because we're on minus special defense nature. But with this, we will survive a modest Zapdos Thunderbolt plus Sand Chip. And this will allow us to one-shot back with a Blaze boosted Fire Blast plus sand damage. Now, if there's no sand damage, then like Blaziken's fine. You're gonna be comfortably in blaze range, and you don't have to worry about sand chip. Leftovers will heal us back up a little bit, but I don't think it heals us out of blaze range against a modest Zapdos. And Fire Blast is still favored to get the one shot on a no bulk Zapdos. So that's still quite nice for us. Generally, I would say that this is favoring the Blaziken. Now, if you're up against the especially defensive Zapdos, things get a little weirder. But needless to say, you will not die to a Zapdos Thunderbolt, unless it crits. So, and then up in the top corner there, with the 4 EVs in HP, we can survive Explosion from an offensive Gengar if it gets the minimum possible roll. So, does that matter? Not really, but we had enough EVs to get all the other benchmarks that I liked. I didn't really need the 4 extra in special attack. It didn't change any role that mattered. So I said, well, if we can maybe live an Explosion from Gengar, let's try it. So that's why there's 4 EVs in HP, which I think is really funny. But will that ever come up? Probably not, but maybe, possibly. So thank me if you run this Blaziken set and you survive an Explosion from Gengar. But I was like, I don't know if I like the HP Ice idea that much, so I have a version here with HP Grass. Everything else is basically the same. The key difference, though, is that we will get an OHKO on offensive Swampert with HP Grass, and we'll 2-hit KO all the other sets. There's some calculus in there with if you have 1 or 3 layers of spikes versus certain defensive Swampert sets, but I'll just say pull up the calculator when you're using Blaziken to see if you get OHKOs here. But yeah, pretty much everything else is the same. I think actually if I go back, we have slightly less special attack because we had to forfeit 1 IV to make that work, but that doesn't change any of the rolls with our other special attacking moves at all. It would make us slightly less favored to KO Flygon with HP Ice, but we're not running HP Ice, so that doesn't really matter. So yeah, now let's get on to the team. So this is the first idea that I had. So I'm going to show you 2 different teams. I mean, they're very similar, but this is the first one that I had. I'm going to do a lead Salac Vaporeon with Baton Pass, with the idea that against many of the leads, Vaporeon is going to be able to get a substitute and pass that, or against Zapdos in particular, live a Thunderbolt into Salac range, get the speed boost, and threaten a 2-hit KO with Ice Beam, but also threaten to Baton Pass, and if we Baton Pass to Blaziken, we will be faster than all the things that we would like to hit with HP Ice. So, how consistent is that? I'm not going to tell you that it is very consistent, but if you like a team that has more UUBL Pokemons than it probably should, then here you go. I know that somebody had a bounty out for somebody to get to 1800 on the ladder with 4 UUBLs, and congratulations to Jonald, who I know has hit that. I know Jonald watches some of my videos. I don't know if they're watching this one, but if you are, shout outs to you. This is another team if you want to try to get to that with 4 UUBLs, but I think this team's a little bit too prediction reliant to get there. But we have Metagross and Flygon to be our physically offensive pressure. We have Porygon 2 to trap and eliminate Dugtrio. Blaziken, one of its big problems is that it's very easily trapped and killed by Dugtrio. So I have Porygon too to revenge that. And it also helps us out because we're going to have Raikou in the back. Raikou's really nice for the speed control. If we can't pass a speed boost with Vaporeon and win on turn like 3 or 4, with whatever we pass that speed to, then Raikou is just a pretty solid revenge killer in the mid to late game. If we get Blissey out of the way, then I think Raikou is generally stronger than Flygon is. If we get Skarmory out of the way, then I would say that Flygon's generally stronger than Raikou. Now, it obviously depends on what you're facing, but I would use this as kind of a rule of thumb. It's with an offense team like this, we're oftentimes going to have to choose a Pokemon to sack. So that's kind of a shorthand that will help you if you're playing with this team and you have to sack a Pokemon. Yeah. I think I'll show you off the second team. It's very similar. It's instead we're gonna move Blaziken to the lead slot to get as much value out of it early on, and that is generally what people recommend you do with Blaziken. Because it's so good against a lot of the common leads, and because it forces a lot of switches early, and it's really hard to get back into the game because it's so frail. Lead Blaziken makes a lot of sense. And then instead of Vaporeon, I have Suicune. Suicune gives a little bit more of a defensive backbone here. And then I have Ice Beam on it to help out against Salamence, who is otherwise pretty tough for this team to deal with. Yeah, and this last point here, that Blaziken can only come back in on Revenge Kill due to being so frail. But that's kind of a problem with the first team as well, is that if you don't pass to Blaziken on an extremely safe option, then Blaziken is not generally going to even make use of a speed boost. Speed boost, there you go, the ability that made Blaziken so broken for so long. But yeah, that's kind of it. And wow, I just find new ways to yap, don't I? Because this is very long. We didn't even get into the battles yet. So let me put that on. All right, we have the Team Aqua or Magma leader battle theme here, which is probably my favorite Pokemon Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire OST. Maybe my favorite Gen 3. I don't know. I do like Deoxys's battle theme quite a lot. But yeah, this is going to be fitting for Blaziken, who is once again carrying us through our in-game run. So let's get started here. So I believe this is the Vaporeon team, and I get the lead matchup that Vaporeon likes is against the Zapdos, but it actually is a Spadef Zapdos, and I get a lucky crit Ice Beam to start. It does not knock me into Salac range, which is not nice, but I can go for a substitute to get there. And I have a speed boost and a substitute, and in against a Jirachi, and I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, this is a Blaziken angle here. So, of course, I baton passed to Metagross. Yeah, maybe I should have baton passed to Blaziken, because Blaziken, it's very difficult to switch into a Blaziken behind a substitute and with a +1 speed boost. But I wasn't super duper confident if there was, say, like a Swampert on this team. Because we have HP Ice on this particular Blaziken, which is kind of the idea of passing the speed boost to it, then we're just going to get completely walled out. I figured that Metagross would have more potential to win the game, but my opponent reveals Skarmory. I Meteor Mash, I don't get the raise. The Wish gets past to Skarm. I go for another Meteor Mash, because why not? I have all this, and Skarmory can't break my stuff, it's going to have to roar me out, so I might as well get the damage. I miss, but I get roared into Blaziken. So now I get to atone for my sin here of not going to Blaziken earlier. I Fire Blast into a Flygon switch, and this is where you got to open the calc when you're up against your opponent here. And when I calced this, I saw that this Fire Blast should have been doing more if it was an offensive Flygon. So that tells me that it's probably defensive. Has the leftovers, and I will just risk it, and it pays off for me. So I get my fast HP ice onto the Flygon and kill it. And because I had the chip, it was a guaranteed kill. My opponent just says, nah, I'm good, and forfeits. So yeah, and this is decently high on the ladder too. I mean, it's kind of good. I don't know if maybe my opponent didn't have a switch in for Blaziken at this point. Both Jirachi and Skarmory are not gonna like to take a Fire Blast. Jirachi might be able to live it if it's got some Spadef investment, but it's generally not great for the Jirachi. It would have to fish for a paralysis with Body Slam, which is why I'm kind of shocked that my opponent forfeits at this juncture. Interesting. This Zapdos I will outspeed, and HP Ice is threatening a KO, so that's quite good. And I don't know what the last two in the back were, but probably nothing that could beat Blaziken, which is kind of crazy. You would think I would think there would be like a Milotic or something on this team, but okay. If my opponent doesn't want to play it out, I guess they don't. This next one, I think the rest of these battles are going to be with the Suicune version with a lead Blaziken. Because while that first team is kind of interesting, I think it's not very consistent, and I value a little bit more consistency. So, but I'll still put the paste in the description though, so if you want to try it out for yourself. So, lead Metagross, lead Blaziken. So that's really good for Blaziken. I can go for a Fire Blast. I get some chip on this Gyarados. And then I'm going to just Thunder Punch, because if it's slower, it's dead. And it was slower, so it's dead. I will go to Suicune on this Aerodactyl. Takes the Double Edge pretty well. I'll just go for Surf, because any sort of specially defensive switch in, like a Snorlax, will stop me from being able to Calm Mind up anyway. And if this Aerodactyl foolishly stays in, I will kill it with Surf. I get paralyzed on Metagross, so I'm just going to explode and take whatever I get. And then my opponent goes to Absol here, which is... that's not a Pokemon. It goes... I don't know what Absol is going to do. I actually looked at the calculator, and I saw that it had a Bolt Beam set. So I said, you know, I don't want to lose my Flygon, because it's so good into the two other revealed Pokemon. So I'm going to go to Porygon 2. It's the most expendable member, and it will take an Ice Beam probably just, or Ice Beam / Thunderbolt just as well as anything else on my team. But the Absol goes for Swords Dance, and I'm like, uh-oh. I get hit with a Hidden Power Fighting, but I can Thunder Wave that, and then I can recover. My opponent will go for Body Slam, I guess predicting a switch. Or potentially trying to get the paralysis back on me. I will just recover again. And my opponent doesn't want to take the kill on Porygon with HP Fighting. Instead, we'll go for another Swords Dance, which is really scary. Goes for Body Slam again. I don't know why not just HP Fighting. But I'm just willing to sack my Porygon here. But I get a lucky para, so I don't have to sack my Porygon. And now this game is looking really, really good for me. I'll sack the Porygon here, but I actually live because this is hold on, I don't remember if this is a Lychee Aerodactyl or not. I don't know. I would feel like Choice Band would do more to Porygon than that, but maybe not. But I get a nice amount of chip on Aerodactyl. It's going to die to basically any hit. I'll go to Suicune and just Surf, and the reveal last is Magneton. Magneton generally cannot hit Flygon, and I didn't think Toxic was going to be a thing into Suicune there. So now I can just get behind a Substitute. As long as I hit Rock Slide, I will kill this Aerodactyl. And then I will outspeed and kill Magneton, and I will trade very favorably into Metagross. If Metagross finds a kill on Flygon, then Blaziken is threatening to kill it back with Fire Blast, and we'll clean up the game against the Magneton as well. And then the last unrevealed Pokemon, I guess, well, I mean, I already showed it in the presentation, being Raikou, is also very safe to finish off the game here. So, yeah, pretty strong. And Blaziken getting that kill on Gyarados made Suicune such a safe switch against a lot of it, or, well, maybe not a super safe switch, but it was only threatened by Boom by most of these Pokemon. So that's quite nice. It relieved a lot of pressure off of Flygon and Suicune to be a Gyarados switch in. So I really like that. Now we can take a look at what Blaziken's going to do against a non-standard lead. Typhlosion's extremely rare. Maybe possibly a Pokemon I should do a video on. I don't know, though. I've never used it. So, and this is one of the only times I've ever seen it on ladder. The Heracross is going to come in for a Mega Horn. That looks like adamant damage to me. But Blaziken is actually pretty good at switching into Mega Horn. Don't necessarily want to switch into a fighting move, but we can threaten with a Fire Blast. And generally speaking, I'm not gonna, if what's in front of me is weak to Fire Blast, I'm not gonna predict Fire Blast into a switch in, even if it's a switch in that resists it, like Salamence, is, I think, favorable for the person clicking Fire Blast, because you could get a burn, and getting a burn on a switch in to Blaziken, like the Salamence, is really, really good. I don't get it there, but the chip is also just fine. Here I'm going to go to Flygon to scout, and this seems to be Dragon Dance with HP Flying Salamence. I am faster generally than DD Salamence, so I decided to go for a Rock Slide here, and I catch Gardevoir. I go into the calc to see if HP Bug, which is my last move on Flygon, will kill this Gardevoir, and it's not favored to, so I'm just going to go to Porygon. Retrace the Levitate, which is kind of interesting. And then I can Thunder Wave a Heracross. Now, if this is a Guts Heracross, it's not great for me. It goes for Mega Horn, and I think that is Guts boosted damage. I'm going to recover with the Porygon. If I get a miss or full para, then Porygon can get back in this game. But otherwise, I just did not want to switch anything into that Mega Horn, or if they switched up moves and went for a fighting type move. So that's not great to lose Porygon. But I can go to Metagross, and I will go for Rock Slide. Paraflinch is really nice, and it was enough chip to get it into Meteor Mash range, and it would also have covered potential switch to Typhlosion. But Magneton comes in, goes for a Thunderbolt, does a lot, but I'm not banded, so I can switch up moves and go for Earthquake. Typhlosion will now come in. I'm going to switch to Suicune because I feel like Suicune handles Typhlosion really well. They go for Focus Punch as I break their sub, and I take 18. That's pitiful. I'll just Surf again. Just get my leftovers back, basically. Now I'll go to Blaziken because I feel like this Heracross has to click Mega Horn into the Suicune. But this is a rest Heracross, so it might be the slot machine. But Fire Blast is still a relatively safe click here. I'll catch the Gardevoir, who has a Salac Berry. I'll switch to Metagross on a potential Psychic, but it actually goes for Fire Punch and kills the Metagross, which is kind of nice, but Suicune should live any hit, even a Thunderbolt. But it shows Destiny Bond, and I lose my Suicune there, which is really, really not good for me. I go Flygon because it stops all the revealed Pokemon from being able to own me. This is a little bit dubious to go to Blaziken here, because if this has a move other than if it has like Brick Break or Earthquake as its last move, I'm kind of screwed. And that's where the slot machine is very dangerous, because, you know, oh, if I predict a switch to, or if I predict my opponent's going to click Mega Horn, then Blaziken is a very safe switch, even with the Guts boosted damage. But like, because Sleep Talk could roll anything, Blaziken might not be safe here. If it is Rock Slide, I should live a Rock Slide though. And they go for Sleep Talk and get Rest. At this stage, I'm going to go to Raikou, predicting the switch to Salamence here, and I get it, and I'm HP Ice on my Raikou. For these teams, I have alternating coverage between Blaziken and Raikou. If I have HP Grass Blaziken, I have HP Ice Raikou. And the advantage there is that Raikou will always outspeed and generally one-shot Salamence, as well as Flygon. So I don't have to rely on some like kind of gimmicky speed boost on Blaziken to handle these ×4 Ice Weak Pokemon. And then Blaziken will always outspeed Swampert as long as it doesn't have a Salac boost. So HP Grass is generally fine for it. Here comes the slot machine again. It's guaranteed to sleep for 2 turns here, so I will go to Blaziken. I'll take the Mega Horn. And then I'm threatening a Fire Blast here. I go for Fire Blast into the Typhlosion, puts it into Blaze range, and it's got a Pataya Berry. It had a roll to kill with Thunder Punch. If it was a modest Typhlosion, it might have just straight up killed me. But I should have been able to outspeed with Raikou and kill it back. Would have been a little bit tough into Heracross in the end game there if I lost Blaziken though. So I will admit that. So maybe I should have went to Flygon and seen if I could have beat it that way, but I don't know. All's well that ends well, I guess. Yeah, probably I should have went to Flygon there. But yeah, there's Blaziken doing its thing. It's actually showing off a little bit of its defensive capabilities, which is kind of rare. It's really only helpful against something like a Heracross who's spamming a move that is resisted by Blaziken. All right, and then we have this game here. So lead Blaziken against a Metagross again. Suicune will come in, take a Fire Blast, and this is kind of what I'm saying here, because I remember this turn. If Fire Blast is your best click into whatever's in front of you, you generally just want to click it because you might get a burn, and getting a burn against a Suicune is really nice. It's going to limit how many turns it can go for Calm Mind before it has to rest. So I can go to Porygon 2, which will take a Surf pretty nicely, and then I can just T-Bolt into this Suicune until it has to rest. If it was a substitute variant, like it's just going to die to the burn. This turn I predict the Suicune to go for rest, and I get my Raikou in, which is really nice. I'll go for substitute to scout what the switch in is. If it was a Dugtrio, I would have been in a little bit of trouble, I guess, but that's what we have Porygon 2 for. I get a nice T-Bolt into Snorlax, and it gets a really nice Body Slam Para into my Flygon, which is not nice overall, if you're me. I'll go to Metagross, risking another Body Slam Para, but I get a crit raise against the Suicune, which is like perfect. And then I Earthquake into the Magneton switch. And my opponent says here that they thought that was a bandage hit into the Suicune, missed that at crit, so that's why they went to Magneton there. That's a little bit unfortunate, but that's why you have to read the log. But this person, I'll zoom this over, actually somebody who watches Tetrafolium, so how much elo do they have? 16, 17? You know, if you want to be a 1600 player, this just goes to show that you should be watching Tetrafolium videos. So, I mean, you saw the slot machine in the other game there, and that's a Tetrafolium original that nobody else has ever ever conceived before. That is a total lie, by the way. I am not the first person who has come up with rest, sleep, talk, Heracross, but I have been noticing that people are talking about it a little bit in the ADV Discord, and it's possible that I had some influence on that. Really, you should actually give credit to All I Do Is Win, who talked so glowingly about it in the Zets video. But I digress. I can trade Earthquakes here with this Metagross, and because I'm +1 with a lot of attack investment, I will generally kill Metagross. So Metagross is getting a 2-for-1 here. I was kind of shocked, actually, that their Metagross was faster than mine. That's what I'm saying in the chat here. Maybe I should try to find a way to view the whole chat, but I don't know. The chat is generally not that important. And I like being zoomed in on the replay itself. Yeah, my Metagross is actually faster than a minus speed Jirachi, so 213, which is faster than most Metagross will go, and that my opponent's Metagross is even faster than that, so it's kind of crazy. I'm going for Ice Beam here. It would kill Salamence if it stayed in. It has a chance to freeze whatever switches in. Snorlax is a switch in, which is quite alright, and then I'll go for a Para on Lax. Para's nice onto Snorlax, even though it's really slow, because you might get free turns like that. Now I can go to Flygon on an Earthquake. My opponent is really trying not to let Metagross come back in. I'll go for Rock Slide, possibly get some Para Flinch in. It also covers Salamence if that switches in. And here's Heracross. Could be the slot machine. Don't know. This is a blue offense team, so it could have it. And I dodged the Mega Horn. Now, generally, Raikou would live a Mega Horn here, but like having this HP to play with is really nice. But same as the last replay, I'm actually going to switch to Blaziken, take the Mega Horn, and I will Fire Blast and get the kill. Here comes Salamence, who is threatening to KO me, but I will go to Suicune, who has Ice Beam to threaten Mence there. I don't want to stay in versus Suicune, so I'll switch to Raikou. My opponent switches to Snorlax, and I will switch again to Flygon. This time I'm just going to take Earthquake damage on Snorlax and let it go. Now Metagross is in, and I'm threatening to Boom. So basically whatever my opponent goes to is going to open up a different win con for me. I can go to Suicune here and Calm Mind up. My opponent is basically forced to go for Explosion to not lose to Suicune here, which they do. And now Raikou, who is faster and has HP Ice, can kill the Salamence. But instead I decide to go to Porygon to Ice Beam, which will also get the kill. Yeah, and we have a little bit of an exchange here. So Young G Tryhard, if you were watching this video, you're here. You're featured, which I don't know. Maybe if you don't necessarily want a loss featured, but I think your team was very good, and I think you played pretty well. The Blaziken, you know, it's hard to prep for it. You know, there's not many things in the team builder that can help you out with that. And my team was definitely weird, which is what my opponent points out. But this is interesting. But yeah, if you see me on the ladder and I'm using a strange Pokemon, you probably know what my next video is going to be about. So that's kind of cool. And it is cool that people are recognizing me now. Maybe it's not super duper cool, because if I end up reusing a team, then people can just kind of find it. But that's fine. And then this last one here, like, you know, I have to show the featured Pokemon doing something crazy. So this one is going to be Blaziken doing something crazy. Also, I just want to note this avatar by my opponent here with this motorcyclist. I don't think they're called cue balls. That sprite, but like the back of the bicycle there, like to me that always looked like a Heracross like horn. I guess that's what it's. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what the stag beetle part is called. But like that thing back there, I think it's supposed to be the back of the bicycle, but I've always seen it as a Heracross horn. So now if you see this avatar, you can't unsee that. So that's good. Now we get a lead Tyranitar here. So this is Blaziken actually going to be able to go for a Sky Uppercut here, which I do go for. Gets a little bit of chip on Mence. Generally, I don't like predicting a switch with Blaziken. I mean, a switch is almost obvious, like almost assuredly going to come, but it's too hard to predict whether your opponent's going to go to Suicune or to Salamence or to like Snorlax or whatever. So I don't generally predict. I'll just click what's in front of me, and then whatever gets revealed, I'll just hope that I have something that switches in well to it. In this case, Suicune is going to be pretty good into the Salamence. I believe that this is the game that made me realize I needed Ice Beam on Suicune, because this is actually, I believe, Crocoon with Roar. I roar that out and get in Celebi. Ice Beam would have been so much better there, but yeah, we kind of just have to take what we have here. I get Leech Seeded on my Metagross, and it Swords Dances, and I say, nah, forget that, I explode. Celebi is a Pokemon that I feel like is pretty difficult to deal with, even when you have something like Blaziken with a super effective stab move into it. So I don't mind getting Explosion off on it, and being a Swords Dance Celebi, it seems like it was going to facilitate a pass to something like maybe like an Aerodactyl, which would have been really tough for me to handle, so I'm glad that I got the boom there. In this case, I'm going to go to Flygon, who should be able to take an HP Flying from Salamence. And I'll trade back with a Rock Slide. My next Rock Slide is threatening a KO, which is nice, but HP Flying is threatening a KO on me, so I will switch. I don't want to let this get a DD, so I think I opt to Roar, which is, yeah, what I do. And here comes the Aerodactyl that I was talking about. I'll take the Double Edge damage and go for Surf. Now this Aerodactyl is really low, but I actually put it in Leechy range, which is not good. I go to Porygon here, and if I get Rock Slide flinched, it might be game over, but I don't. So Ice Beam picks up the KO there. Tyranitar will come in. I opted to stay in to Thunder Wave this. If it got a Dragon Dance, it would have to be Double Edge or Ice Beam as its last move to stop Flygon from kind of revenging it. It would also have to be max speed to stop Raikou. So I thought that might be kind of safe. I mean, if it was Lum DD and it had the right coverage moves, then I probably would have been in trouble. But instead it just goes for Brick Break and crits and kills my Porygon. Now I'll go to Blaziken, who I will try to predict a switch and go for Thunder Punch. But my opponent predicts a switch and goes for Ice Beam, which is really funny. My opponent will now switch, and I go for Fire Blast, predicting a switch again, but clicking a different move. So, yeah, that's kind of funny, actually, how that played out. My opponent will go for Dragon Dance, and I opt to stay in and Thunder Punch. So, reason being is that I think that the combination of Flygon and Raikou might have a chance to win the game still. As long as I don't let this Salamence get a DD. That's the worst possible case scenario. So I have to, in my mind, I have to stay in with Blaziken to stop the DD. And it actually worked out really well for me. Now, if my opponent went for HP Flying, yeah, they would have killed my Blaziken. But I would have had the option to go to Flygon and finish off the Salamence with a Rock Slide. I would have lived an HP Flying. And then I'm threatening Tyranitar still. I could have also potentially went Raikou and dropped a Thunderbolt on something. My opponent will go to Metagross here, which I should just kill with Fire Blast. So I don't know if that was the best play. Then they will go to Tyranitar, and even at -1, my Sky Uppercut is killing this Tyranitar because it's not an HP invested one. And the last mon is Magneton, and Magneton is getting cooked by a crit Fire Blast. Crit obviously did not matter. And yeah, that's it. 17 turns. Turn 17. That's a very important turn for us here at Tetrafolium's channel. If you know anything about my draft league, um, it's called Turn 17. I can explain a little bit more of the lore there, I guess, as we do a little bit more Turn 17. But we're actually into playoffs of that now, which all the rest of those videos will probably be uploaded on my good buddy Ephemeral Styles channel, as I continue to focus a little bit more on ADV content. But if you're ever interested in a draft league, we are doing playoffs now, so in the not too distant future, we may be doing a season 6. So look out for that, and I'll definitely be advertising that if you're interested in that sort of thing. But yeah, this has been Blaziken. If you've watched this far, I'm gonna spoil what my next video is gonna be. Is actually another video about Blaziken, because I beat the #1 ranked player on ladder with this Blaziken team. So I want to show that off, and I need the clickbait. So I'm gonna let that be its separate video and see if I can do the Umbreon numbers. There are a lot of you guys out there, I know you don't want to admit it, but you're into stall, and that's why you are finding my Umbreon video. I mean, granted, I think stall is a great archetype, and everybody should learn how to play at least one stall team at one point in your life, so that you can sort of understand how these sick, twisted individuals who play stall every game think about the game. But yeah, that's been Blaziken. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do think that Blaziken has some consistency issues. You're relying on inaccurate moves like Fire Blast and Sky Uppercut, and you have no bulk whatsoever. So if you miss your Sky Uppercut on Tyranitar, it's gonna kill you with Earthquake. If you miss your Fire Blast on Metagross, it's gonna kill you with Earthquake. And there are many such cases where that could happen to Blaziken, and you could be in some bad spots. I may actually post a replay in a comment where Blaziken kind of just misses all of its moves and does nothing, to show you maybe where Blaziken can kind of go wrong. But if you hit your moves, and especially if you're a super duper gamer and predict your opponent's switches, Blaziken can get you a lot of kills that not very many other Pokemon can consistently get. So yeah, I think Blaziken is really nice for that, and yeah, you should be using Blaziken on your next OU team. This has been Tetrafolium, plugging once again a Pokemon who is underloved and underrepresented, and I will maybe be doing that in a future video. But I have a poll on my channel, because I have hit 100 subscribers, and thank you for that. That is asking whether you would like to see a video on a high-ranked Pokemon or an unranked Pokemon, as a sort of 100 subscriber special, if you would. So please go and vote on that poll if you have not already. If you're this far into the video, please subscribe, so we can maybe get to 200 subscribers one day. I know, very ambitious. But yeah, that's all I have to say. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.